on behalf of the Prasetiya Business School, and especially, of course, of the organizers of this global scholar network of Prasetiya Mulya, to welcome you, especially to our guests and speakers, as well as others, that has come from afar. This is the second that Prasetiya Mulya organized this global scholar network, and we hope that annually this can become a trademark of Prasetiya Mulya's commitment to the region. We have, as has been put out in the plan of this meeting, indeed very turbulent years yet to face. Not only in our part of the world, but in many parts of the world. Maybe we are fortunate to be in our part of the world because relatively we thought this part of the world has been doing well. We have been very fortunate for the last 20 years to have peace and economic development to the extent that we have been able to really become a dynamo for the future of the world. DBS, the Development Bank of Singapore, about a month ago, organized for her clients, about 700-800 of them, a meeting, a conference of one day, talking about this. That this, and that is particularly, of course, East Asia and Southeast Asia included, but also the whole of Asia in the future, are going to be the game changer for future development of the world. Because despite the limits that is going to happen with a better, developed economies in the future, this region is going to produce every year one Germany economically. And that's why the hope will be in this part of the world. Let me now say a few words about the topics we are going to discuss this day. Global innovation and entrepreneurship. Well, definitely two issues that are critical for all of us for future development, economic development of this part of the world. And the two important topics are critical but at the same time very complex, as you all well know. And rightly, what has been said in the terms of reference, innovation is most probably a very difficult part that we have to overcome, we have to master, and we have to develop into one that could create all these innovations. Because emerging economies, developing part of the world, are more dependent on innovations that has happened in the developed part of the world. And we were dependent on that. But at the same time, I have to argue, we have other means and paths how to participate. One is definitely the China model. China has been doing very well, and of course I have to admit she has some real economic power to bargain, to be able to share the innovations that has been developed in the developed world. Through her foreign investment policies, through her cooperation and partnerships with these foreign companies concerned, where part of the deal should be a real transfer of technology. That is one model. Again, I have to admit, for countries and governments who has enough bargaining power in being able to do so. There's another model earlier, and that is the Japanese model. They are not the one that has been innovating everything, but they are the ones that has made it practical so that everybody can use those innovations and develop further in the implementation and the practicality and in the programs of what has been innovated in the West particularly. There's another one to follow. And so, we must not think that innovation is only an issue that will come later for us, the next 20 years or so. We must think what we can do, and there are some models to follow, and most probably there are some models also to look for. High tech, for instance, all these electronic things, which I don't saw of. I don't know anything about it. I don't know even how to type. But I know there is one country, a small country, and maybe even a semi-country, like Taiwan, who has been able to create a lot more than you think was possible then in high tech. So this, of course, is not an impossibility, even for us to be able to do so. So it will be very enlightening for us to hear your views, especially the experts, on this issue, how to innovate, what can we do. While in some instances, we have to wait that the innovation has to come from our developed part of the economies of the world. And one, for sure, important, I think, phenomenon that I can see on this issue is innovation is one where the educational part of our country's concern are very important. The base is there at the end. And that's why education, besides for other purposes, like equity problems to face, like also overcoming the middle income trap, but this also in preparing to be able to innovate. Our education system is critically important. And I propose, so is the political system, to a very large extent. I don't think that we have to contradict whether it is going to be the China model or the Washington model. I don't think so. I only want to ask the Chinese to be very much more prepared that their political system has to have more flexibility politically to be able to cope with the coming challenges they are going to face in their own economies, and that includes also innovation in the future. Without a certain flexibility, a certain freedom, that could be limited in the future. So beware and think about it. Now the second part, and that is the problem of entrepreneurship, of course, is a very big challenge. As maybe you remember, a decade or so plus ago, every school of management are thinking, how do we create entrepreneurs? Because at the end, nobody really knows whether it is an art or a science. As even economics is a question mark. And here, I think two things are very important. And that is experiences, and experiences. You have to do it before you become an entrepreneur. You cannot theorize and then become an entrepreneur. You have to do it, learn it in a hard way. Maybe sometimes, go bankrupt several times, but then arose and overcome and do better the next time. That is one very critical issue, I think. And I think Professor Wong here from Singapore and US is definitely on the right side, as he is not only thinking about the theoretical part, how to teach about entrepreneurship, but also trying out some practical things to do. Some seed money, let them try it out, and come back with some results or no results. These are things I think is a very important part in creating entrepreneurs. Now we have, of course, in Indonesia a a special, and I would like to end with this story, a special issue that the Dutch, the colonial Netherlands Indies, government in 1823 established, the various status of the people living in Indonesia and separating them. Not as tough as South Africa has done. It's not apartheid, but it is definitely, first legal system that is different one to the other to start with, but also other things. And the Indonesian Chinese then is only confined to business. They cannot do otherwise. They cannot go into the officialdom, cannot go into the military, cannot go into even higher learning, etc. So then, for now, of course, almost 2 centuries, most of these people has been in business for 3, 4, 5 generations. And of course, I think, it has become part of their genes to be businessmen. And by hook or crook, they will get through. And that has shown itself in Indonesia. And it has become a problem at one time, and still is a problem to a certain extent. But there is now, happily to say, a real recognition that these fellows that has always been in business, was born in the surrounding of business, was only confined to Chinatown, which is only China is business town. These fellows are the ones that have it at their fingertips, the problem of being an entrepreneur. And that now we Indonesians are willing to use to become our model, how we should emulate and what we should emulate. And I'm glad to say that Prasetiya Mulya has been established exactly for this purpose of how to bring the masses of the Indonesians to have that kind of acumen, that kind of work ethics. I mean, I know my brother is a businessman, all of them, and I know what businessman means. They are not stopping before they get what they want. And despite the up and downs, etc., I told you, that is the spirit of the businessman. And I hope Prasetiya Mulya is one of the institutions that could create this kind of a mix that where the Indonesians masses can learn how these small entrepreneurs, Chinese Indonesians, can do the job. Thank you.